Hey, what's going on? I'm Adam Hoffman, and this is Dom. I'm going to be teaching him the squat today. So first, we're going to go through the squat motion and the technique. So what I really want you to focus on is when you're coming down, you want to make sure your feet are straight ahead, that your knees are about shoulder or hips length apart, and that when you're coming down, that you really control the descent down and you're tightening up your quads and your glutes and your core to make sure that that back stays nice and straight, that you're not extending or flexing over because it leads to some back problems. So make sure when you're also coming down that you're really controlling it and not letting gravity take you to the floor. And as you're coming down, I want you to breathe in, and as you're exploding up, I want you to breathe out. So why don't we try a few without any weight before we do this. That's good. Just making sure you keep that core real tight, that back real straight, knees not coming over the toes. Really nice. All right. So why don't we try some with some weight here. So the three main focuses I want you to remember is tight core. Make sure you're breathing throughout the entire thing. Breathing in as you go down, exhaling real hard as you come up and exploding up and tightening up the core, the quads, and the glutes. So why don't we first set you up, and there's one thing I want to focus on here is when you go underneath the bar, once you go underneath, making sure you're not setting that weight on the back of your neck, and you're keeping it more on the shoulders. All right? And making sure you're keeping those shoulder blades back. All right, so why don't you lift the weight off, take a few steps back. All right, now just remember, core, quads, and glutes tight, breathing as you go down, breathing out as you come up. And do not go past 90 degrees. All right, making sure you're keeping that back real straight. Good. Now another thing I'm also looking for is to make sure that the knee is not going out or in, and that he's really keeping it on top of those toes, those feet are staying straight, which he's doing very well. All right. How's that feeling? Good. Good? All right. Nice. So the next thing we're going to work on is the deadlift. And there's a few key things that I want you to first learn. So the motion, we're going to do this without the weight. So the main thing that you want to make sure is that you're coming down, you're bending your knees a little bit, making sure that you're not just straight over the bar. And when you pick it up, you're going to grab it, and you want to make sure your feet are shoulder width apart, and that when you grab it, you're going to come up, your head's going to be up, chest up a little bit, and when you come up, you want to make sure you're keeping that core real tight, keeping that back straight, and making sure you're not overextending backwards, because that's another common thing we see a lot. And so why don't we go through the motion and let you see it without any weight. So back up, so you're going to, and make sure you're also really tightening those glutes, making sure that you're not pulling with your back, and this is that you're really extending those hips forward, you're thrusting those hips forward. Good. So yeah, I saw you go a little bit far back. Just try to keep that back straight when you're at the top. And you're going to be breathing out as you come up and breathing in as you come down. All right, good. A few more. All right, why don't we try it with some weight? And also, another thing with the bar, when you set up, you're going to want to set it up right along your shins almost, and you're almost going to drag the bar up your shins. So like straight up. You don't want it obviously to drag against the skin, but right along the shins. All right, good. Good setup. Make sure your chest is up, head looking forward. Good. Make sure you're not arching that spine and keeping that core real tight. Breathing up as you come up. All right, now see, put the weight down. Make sure you're really not extending that back, and that when you come up, you're thrusting your hips forward so your back's not arching back. So make sure you're really, let's try it one more time. Make sure you're tightening that core real good. Good. All right, make sure you try to bring your hips a little far forward, really tightening those glutes. Yeah, good, good. One more. Nice. Now, so you bend back it there, I want to see one more. Make sure you're really not bringing your shoulders back, keeping your back straight at the top of it, thrusting your hips forward and flexing your glutes. All right, good. For our last exercise, I'm going to be showing him one of my personal favorites, the standing shoulder press. And so the first thing I'm really going to want to focus on is wrist placement. This puts a lot of stress onto your wrist, so you're going to make sure when you're doing this, you always want to keep your wrist straight over your elbow. And you want to make sure that when you're lifting it up, you don't want to have your wrist come down forward or back, that it's staying, your arms and everything are staying in a perfectly straight line, and that your wrist is always staying on top of that elbow. Now when you push up, you're going to exhale out, and you're going to push up, and you want to make sure you're really getting the shoulders up and going through a full range of motion, because if not, that can lead to some problems later down the road. So another thing I want to really focus on is squeezing your glutes and your core, really stabilizing that body so that when you're pushing up with the weight, you're not going to fall forward or fall back. You're really just keeping a straight line body. You're going to want to keep your feet about shoulder width apart, feet forward. And so why don't we try that just without any weight and see how you do it? That looks good. Good setup. Now make sure you're really getting those shoulders up. All right. Good. So why don't we add some weight? So what I want to make sure about the grip is you want to grip it about slightly wider than shoulder width apart. So when your elbows come down right here, so like that's where you want to grip at. So why don't we try gripping? So remember, feet straight, shoulder width apart, squeezing those glutes, squeezing that core. Why don't we bring the weight up? And you can also do this by using a rack or having somebody assist you to bring that weight up. So when you come up, now try extending, really breathing out, pushing up. All right, now see, you went a little far back. Try to keep it like right on top of your shoulders are falling back a little bit. So come down, you want to stop between the chin and the collarbone. And then, so why don't we try one more? Keeping them wrists right over those elbows. There we go. That's good. Why don't we do a few more? All right, make sure you're really squeezing that core, get your back bending a little bit. Really squeezing those abs, those glutes, keeping that core tight. Good. Good. Nice. All right, that's good enough. Now that concludes our video for the internship, and I would like to thank you for your time and be forward to talking to you.